Hello everybody, this is Starman and welcome to the first chapter of Let's Play Mean Streets. Now, Mean Streets historically is a rather important adventure game. The first reason for that is that it was the first game in what became known as the Tex Murphy's Mysteries adventure game series, which is one of the greatest adventure game series of all time, a personal favorite of mine, and I intend to play through you the whole sexology of it, or septology, or whatever you call it when there's 6 games. At any rate, Mean Streets was the first game, and it is still widely regarded as a great historical piece, not only because of its connection to a long-running adventure game franchise, but it was one of the first adventure games to make use of VGA graphics. Yes, 256 colors, which is no big deal today, but back in 1989 when this came out, VGA monitors were just starting to be released and weren't in wide use at the time. And this actually set the pattern for most of the Tex Murphy games, and a lot of the games made by Access, which was the company that made the first couple of Tex Murphy games. They were always good about taking the most cutting-edge technology and trying to utilize it, even if it wasn't widely available. They also created a system that they called Real Sound, which allowed the first convincing digitized sound effects and music to be played through a regular computer speaker. And they actually gave you instructions on how you could plug your regular stereo up to your computer to play through the speakers back before, having your own computerized stereo system was widely available. So, there's a lot of good things on here. And the funny thing about this game is that it originally did not start out being the hybrid game that it was. Originally, Access had created a flight game called Echelon, which had a very good flight system, and they wanted to create another game that made use of that. Unfortunately, flight sims, there's not really a lot of variety to the gameplay in that. I mean, you fly, you move around, that's it. So they hit upon the idea of trying to combine it with another story, and they did an adventure game. And since one of the writers was a amateur filmmaker who'd made a couple little film noir type things with his friends at home, he spun up this story that was kind of a futuristic cyberpunk film noir thing that proved to be a suitable enough setting. So all of this got thrown together along with a admittedly mediocre shoot 'em up system to create the story that we are going to play through. And I won't spoil any more about the plot, but I will take a small break here. You'll notice we've got a static image right here. That's because I've had to take some liberties with the setup on this, because the game launches you right into the beginning, and there's not really a good place at the start for me to talk about stuff. Hence why we've got a static image of the game's opening screen and me rambling about it. But I'm going to take a quick break here to read the introduction to the game from the manual, because had this been made later, they almost certainly would have filmed this or written the dialogue in, and they give you the basic gist of it, but I like the film noir style of the writing here enough. So we will go ahead and, there will be an instant jump cut here, and we will read that, and then we will get into the game. A steaming layer of thick fog hangs over the city. It's late Wednesday night, the end of September. The weather report says the next few days will get warm, real warm. The radiation count should climb over 70. Very unpleasant. It's the kind of day that moves with the mercury, thick and slow. Funny how the work drags out with the humidity. My body and brain are trying to talk me into taking a few days vacation when the office door swings open. The silhouette in the doorway tells me this isn't the pizza man. My eyes follow the curves up to where the lady's silken blonde hair kind of clasps near her eyes, which are exotic. Not blue exactly, deeper than blue, sad and dangerous. If ever a woman was trouble, she's it. "Are you Tex Murphy?" she asks. Her bottom lip pouts out at me, and I can tell I'm probably staring at it for too long. "That's me," I say, real cool, real professional. "Ms. Linsky, Sylvia Linsky." Her eyes cloud over suddenly. They're murky and preoccupied, like mud puddles on a wet road. "It's my father." The pause that follows is long and sad. "I want you to investigate my father's death." "Have you been to the police?" That's my standard reply. I don't want anybody accusing me of breaking the law. Nobody messes with the boys downtown. "Of course I've spoken to them. Detective Clements thinks Daddy committed suicide." "It wasn't suicide! Daddy would never kill himself. It's murder. I know it's murder." She's getting upset. The careful line of her lipstick draws my attention to her mouth and the chin that trembles just a little bit. Well, how do you find me? I ask as I sit down on the wooden chair that faces my desk. The chair looks dark and gritty next to her. Detective Clemens said that if I insist on throwing money away, you are the one to throw it to. Well, Miss Linsky, before we play catch, give me some background on your father's death, and I'll decide if there's a ball game. I hear the rustle of silken stockings. Miss Linsky crosses her leg and starts her story. My father was professor of neuropsychology at the University of San Francisco for 15 years. He was well respected in his field and received many awards and research grants. About 8 months ago, he took a leave of absence from the university to work on an independent consulting contract. When I asked him about it, he said he couldn't tell me anything, not even who hired him. I rarely saw him after that. One night I went to his home. He was terribly upset. It was obvious that he'd been drinking. He was very evasive when I questioned him. I was worried about him. He wasn't a drinking man, so I asked if I could stay with him, but my persistence only made him angrier. Finally, he agreed to come to my apartment for dinner the following Sunday. That was 3 days ago. Miss Linsky's body is very still. I'm not sure she's even breathing. While she's looking right at me, her eyes, which are as shiny as glass, melt. 2 tears spill from them and run down her cheeks. Last Sunday morning, I got a call from the San Francisco Police Department. They told me that my father had apparently jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. They needed somebody to come and identify the body. They said that a witness had seen my father jump. His car was found on the bridge. Because there was no sign of foul play, they're calling it a routine suicide. I interrupted her. Well, police are usually pretty good in these matters from what you've told me. My father did not kill himself. Her anger made her eyes more viciously beautiful. He was in serious danger. Even if he had killed himself, he never would have thrown himself into the bay. Why not? I asked. Her anger faded. She uncrossed her legs and continued. As a child, he nearly drowned swimming in the bay. From then on, he'd been afraid of water. He never even went swimming. He wouldn't even go near the beach for picnics. Oh, there's one more thing. I found this fax note in his desk when I went through his things. She slipped the note out of her bag and across my desktop. It read, Professor, you were right about these boys. They're playing for keeps. Watch your step. SF. Did you show this to Clemens? Yes, but he didn't consider it to be very important. He wasn't able to connect it to anything or anyone. I just know that whoever wrote this note knows what happened, and I'm willing to back up my belief. Miss Linsky's hand went back into her bag, this time coming out with $10,000. Cash. I sit straight up. This is my life saving, she said. I want you to find out the truth. If this is a suicide, I want to know. I'll accept whatever evidence you can find, but if this is murder, and I know it is, I want to know who did it and why. Her story wasn't convincing me this was a murder. It did pique my curiosity. So did her face and the 10 G's. All right, I'll do some checking for you. Miss Linsky, suddenly cool, straightened her skirt and offered me her hand. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. I trust you'll find the truth. She then turned and walked out of my office and left me staring at the 10 grand. That's a lot of money for an advance, even for my rich clients. My gut tells me that something's wrong. Maybe I'm too cynical. I scribble a note to my secretary. Dig up any and all information on Dr. Carl Linsky. I'll start my investigation in the morning. All right, and here we are on the Mean Streets load screen. I'm running this through DOSBox. You can purchase all of the Tex Murphy games except for the last one on goodoldgames.com. Actually, I think it's GOG.com, isn't it? Anyway, okay, seriously. 3, 2, 1. And here we are on the load screen for Mean Streets. You can see that this is an old school DOS game. We are not going to really be able to do anything with these options except for play Mean Streets. So let's hit that one. And we do get an option for color here. And yeah, we have the whole monochrome, CGA. Actually, you know what? Just to make you kids grateful, I'm going to show you the CGA graphics. Because when I originally got this game, I was slumming it out on a 4-color monitor. Yeah. This was what I had to deal with when I was 12. Yeah. Ugh. Now let's see if it lets me change the graphic options from this screen. It will not. But we can change the sound level to medium, which I think I'll go ahead and do that. And, well, Okay, can't change the graphic options, so I will go ahead and exit the DOS. It's going to kick me back to my main screen. So we'll do a cut here, and then I'll come back, and we can see the glorious 256 colors of vintage VGA. Okay, now we're starting in VGA mode. And yeah, that's much better, isn't it? And we got ourselves this nice little funky soundtrack. And there's the screen that I captured earlier. But we're going to go ahead and skip the opening credits. And game options, we'll go back to this. I'm going to go ahead and change the sound level down to medium, like I said. And change the fight level to low, because honestly, the fighting in this game gets real old real quick. And it's not difficult, but it is tedious. And the faster we can go through it, the better. So we'll go ahead and start a new game. And I should note this was also one of the first games to use digitally captured actors, although in 1989 the technology wasn't really there. So you see we have a roughly digitized figure, but that still has him walking clonk, 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 clonk. Anyway. The case. Your name is Tex Murphy, a private investigator in San Francisco. The year is 2033, and you've just been hired by a beautiful young lady named Sylvia to investigate the death of her father, Dr. Carl Linsky. Dr. Linsky was a prominent professor at the University of San Francisco and has been working on a secret project. Sylvia had asked him about it and his work several times, but he would not talk about it. Then a few days ago, he jumped or was pushed from the Golden Gate Bridge. Police are sure it was a routine suicide, but Sylvia thinks it was murder. Your job is to solve the case. You've been given $10,000 cash by your client, and you have 5 leads. Please refer to the Getting Started section of the manual for a list of your leads and some important suggestions. Be sure to write things down and be careful to spell correctly. Yeah, if you don't spell get a character's name spelled correctly, you can't go anywhere with this. When questioning suspects, use people's full names. Help available by pressing H. Yes. Thankfully, they were very good about making sure that you would have help all the time whenever you needed it and gives you directions. So yes, this is where we will be spending a majority of the game, or rather, where I will be spending the majority of the game, because I am far too kind to make you sit through all the scenes of this car flying around. So anyway, we have a list of various options. We have 5 sources, which are listed in the manual, and navigation codes to get to them. Now, you can try and fly around everywhere if you want. Thankfully, the car does have an autopilot, because if you aren't using the autopilot, it's next to impossible to handle this. It's not that the controls are really difficult, but, well, you see that red and silver thing between our legs and the... we got a fax coming in. Okay, from Vanessa, our secretary, to Tex Murphy, PI. Here's an article on Linsky's death. No professor found dead. Prominent University of San Francisco professor Carl Linsky has found dead, or was found dead early Sunday, what police are calling a suicide. West Precinct Detective Steve Clements said a witness saw Linsky jump from the Golden Gate Bridge about 11:20 last night. A suicide note also found at his home was addressed to his daughter, Sylvia. Anyway, Linsky's fiancée, Dolores Lightbody, indicated the professor had been under a great deal of stress and had taken leave of absence from his teaching duties at the university. Funeral services will be 10 o'clock Wednesday, September 24th at the All Saints Church. And yes, we have 5 sources to check out. We have the address for Linsky's apartment. We have Sylvia Linsky, the daughter. We have John Richards, the medical examiner on the case. We have Dolores Lightbody, his fiancée. Carl's fiancé, that is. And then we have Steve Clements, the head detective on the case. So that didn't really give us much more information that we didn't have already. But that did bring up 2 interesting points. We have 2 contacts that we can reach through our fax machine here in the car. And you'll note that we have 2 options. We have phone Vanessa and phone John Lee. And basically, whenever we get stuck, we can contact Vanessa, our secretary, and ask her for information. And then we have phone Lee, Lee being one of our informants. And you can contact both of them to try and get information on any other names you have. The key difference between is Vanessa working for you will come up with leads for free. Lee you have to pay off, but Lee will sometimes come up with more in-depth information. Like instead of saying, look up this person, they can give you information on where to find a person or something other useful info about them. Anyway. So let's go ahead and check out our first location, which is Carl Linsky. Now we need to get into our Navicomp. I can type in the code they gave me, which this is all in the instruction manual, so code is 4663. And make sure my number lock is on. Okay, destination is locked, but that's not enough. I also have to turn on the autopilot. And you can see in the little indicator up there that the office is about 1.83 miles away, and yeah, you can see this is not exactly the easiest place to navigate if you're trying to use landmarks, looking at the landscape. Because that red bit is the sky, the green bit is ground nearby, the brown is mountains, the silver grayish area is landscape. And like I said, after this video, I'm not going to make you watch all of the bits where I'm flying around, because for some weird reason the autopilot likes to climb to 10,000 feet and then drop down even if you don't need to go up that high. But here we are, our first locations. Now we can exit. And this is one of the first things that will happen. You'll either wind up getting a description of the place you've gone to, you will get a person if you're going to meet somebody in specific, or you'll find a location you can walk around and search in depth. So here we have University of San Francisco. The instructor's offices at the University of San Francisco are small cubicles attached to the main classroom areas. I'll walk down the corridor and find the door with Professor Linsky's name on it. I try the door, but it's locked. I'll pull out my private detective all-purpose door opening kit and quickly pop it open. I scan the office, but it looks like no one has been here for quite some time. There are miscellaneous notes on the desk and textbooks in a bookcase on the wall. I examine the notes, but they don't strike me as important to the case. An additional 5-10 minutes of searching produces nothing I can use. Nothing else to see or do at this location. Well, nice of them to let you know that. Okay, so with that done, nothing at his office. So open up the Navicomp. We'll go ahead and try the code for Sylvia Linsky. Talk to our client. That's 4421. And she lives a bit of a ways outside of San Francisco, about 75 miles out of the way. Now, thankfully, our car also has a warp drive, because otherwise it takes you forever to go places. In fact, just to show you, now I'm still going forward, but not as fast as if I had the warp drive, and that little blinking pixel is where we're heading. And I can try and drop my elevation down a little bit. And we will totally breeze past this if we do not approach slowly. So hence why I turned the warp off. And that blinking pixel doesn't seem to be getting any bigger somehow. Okay, and very slowly edge forward. Yeah, see what I mean about this being a precision game? Okay, we're on the landing pad, so now we can exit. bell chimed inside, and after a moment, Sylvia opened the door. She wore a pale blue blouse and white shorts that were short enough to be friendly. She was as beautiful as ever with her soft blonde hair and clear blue eyes. I knew it was starting to fall for her. Careful, I reminded myself. She's a client, and falling for a client is dangerous in my business. Still, if only I knew how she felt for me. Well, she just licked her lips on meeting me. I'm taking that's probably a good sign. So we can ask a question, and again, the interface is pretty basic. You just type in whoever or whatever you want to ask about. So I can ask about Tex Murphy. You're a handsome guy, Tex. Why don't you come back and see me when our business is completed? Oh my. Okay, so ask about Carl Linsky, her dad. Linsky. He was happy at USF, NC 64663. That's the place we were just at. They took a leave of absence to do some consulting work, and then his whole personality changed. I'm sure he's in some sort of trouble. Because of this, I don't believe he committed suicide. I've lost both my father and the insurance money, and I'm going to find out why. If you need to look through his apartment, it's located at NC 4660. So we have his apartment code now. So you can go ahead and explore that. And in fact, let's ask her about the insurance. What? You're thinking I might have killed my father for the insurance money, aren't you? I'm not going to deny I could use $1 million, but I honestly believe that my father was murdered. And if he was, I'm entitled to the money. But if you investigate his death and you're convinced it's a suicide, I'll accept your findings. And whenever we question somebody, we have the option to bribe and threaten. Obviously, we are not going to try and do that with her because, she's our client. We don't need to pay her off because, we're bribing her with her money. And threaten, well, just not a smart idea. And I have a list of other options, other things you can ask her about. Like, for instance, there's this organization called the Law and Order Party, so we can ask about law and order. I've heard the name, but I don't know much about them. I'm not very political. And we asked about the insurance already. And one of the other things we can ask about for some weird reason is passcard and password. And why they ask you to tell, it becomes obvious later why the manual tells you to ask everybody about this, or the word Overlord, or MTC Intercorp. Okay, and let's go ahead and ask about Steve Clements. He's the detective. I don't care what he thinks. My father didn't commit suicide, and Dolores Lightbody, actually E.S. Lightbody. Dolores and my father talked about getting married. I always felt that she had seduced him by black magic because there's no other way my father would have fallen for a woman like her. Gosh, okay. Well, I think that's all we can get out of her at the moment. And most of the questioning in this game will continue along these lines. We talk to somebody, ask them about every single name that we have, see where that leads us. So, with that done, let's go ahead and check out the location she just gave us, his apartment, which was 4660. And that's back the way we came. Now, funny thing about this game is that it does not actually track your sequences. So you can actually jump ahead and go to places where you don't actually have the information on how to get there yet. But since you need to get some items from different people before you get to the final destination, it behooves you to play it straight, because sure, you can go ahead and type in the code to get to the last part of the game, but you're going to be completely hopeless once you get there. And yeah, this is, you see now why I'm intending to edit this after the fact, because weirdly enough, getting to the place doesn't seem to take too long. It's getting the autopilot to get in the exact spot and then lower itself down that's the problem. Small wonder that the later games they completely eliminated this mechanic, but at the time, this was Access Software's baby, and they're wanting to use it as much as possible, which, don't get me wrong, as far as flight simulators go, the whole Echelon system is a good one. It's just that, in the case of Mean Streets, the flying around gets in the way of the story and the puzzles, which were the main selling point of it. The three-story Queen Anne-style home of Professor Carl Linsky has been well kept. I step inside and notice the quaint style of furniture and decor. And thankfully, there's not an alarm in this place. Some of the locations will have alarms. Let's see, press. Now, whenever you get close to something you can interact with, you'll get the little press enter. And you'll see we have options here for a switch, and then things like a cabinet, a bookcase, a fax machine, and a fax. So let's go ahead and hit switch. Looks like a light switch. Well, let's go ahead and turn that on. And yeah, flip the lights on. Okay, and let's go ahead and look at the cabinet. Standard oak and metal entry table with a fax machine. Well, let's look at the fax machine. Fax machine is operational. There's a message on it. Let's look at the machine. A fax. Dear Professor, looking forward to our date Saturday. Love, Sandra Larson. Aha. So we'll make a note of that because there is another woman, apparently. And make sure we get Larson spelled right. And yes, the instruction manual for the game does advise you to keep your own detective notebook and to write everything down. And that's not just good advice, that is totally necessary to playing this game. But we can go ahead and get the message anyway. And look at the cabinet. Let's open the cabinet. Doesn't seem to want to open. Well, then look at the bookcase. Scan the bookcase. Nothing seems out of the ordinary. Let's try moving the bookcase. You get a firm grip and tug as hard as you can. You couldn't move this if your life depended on it. Okay, so nothing much there. So we'll go ahead and go back and now walk around and let's check out the bar. Yeah, thankfully there's not a lot of movement puzzles in this game, unlike some of the later ones, because Tex does not move quickly. Okay, so we've got the whiskey. Yeah, whiskey. Let me get the whiskey. I now have whiskey. Look at the bar. The bar appears to be well stocked. There is a cabinet door. Well, let us open the bar door. And there's a shoebox. Let us look at the shoebox. Small shoebox inside the cabinet. Open the shoebox. Then there's papers. Look at the papers. Professor, I got the possible Nexus passwords to be decoded. Isbiho, Inique, Lemnat, and yeah. Bunch of craziness. I'll be in touch. Now, you do need to write these down, but I know what these mean already because the first word is bishop, the second one is queen, and from there, the rest of them run through a variety of chess terms. So you've got Nickeg king, orc for rook, nap for pawn, etchment there is checkmate. There's stalemate, castle, knight, black, white. So, yeah, somebody is playing a game of chess. Ha ha ha. But we'll go ahead and get the papers as well. And that's all we need from here, I think. Go back. And yes, you can taste everything. Yuck, obviously you're not a gourmet. Then we'll head over to this area, and you'll note that we have a couch. The couch is an antique 1960s contemporary style. The coffee table is made of brushed aluminum, and there is a chess set here, which is kind of a hint if you don't know immediately from looking at the anagram list. Okay, the chessboard is set up with all the pieces except one. A bishop is missing. The handwritten note says, "I'm going to get you for failing me, Linsky." A threatening note. That might be a clue and a set of motivation for who might want to kill the professor. So we've got that. And look at the plant. A miniature palm tree mutation is set in the corner. You try and pick it up, it is too awkward to carry around, it won't fit in the trunk. I tried moving it, but that didn't really do anything. Let's see, look at the cabinet. There's a cabinet door here. Looks like there's a cabinet key of some type. And a book. Let's look at the book. Psychology textbook written by Carl Linsky. A page is marked. Okay, so we have that now. And let's see, look at the painting. This painting is an antique landscape. People used to buy these at Kmart. Not the most timely reference now. I think Kmart is still around, but all the ones in Texas have closed. So let's see, move the painting. And there is a safe. And I think I kind of skipped past this, but I believe that the marked page in the book was the combination. So we now have the money in the safe. And, you know, robbing the joint that we're casing for our client may be dirty pool, but, well, we need the money. Okay, so let's see. Now here we have a chair. And it appears that there is a key on the chair. Let's look at the display case. This display case is protected by a magnetic field. You notice 2 slot screws practically hidden in surmise that you could shut down the field if you had a slot screwdriver. Oh, if only we had a slot screwdriver. The statue inside the case is the historical artifact, the Maltese fruitcake. Carbon dated is the oldest fruitcake in existence. It dates back to the 16th century Europe. Nobody wanted to eat it then either. Value $4,000. So let's see, look at the trash can. A trash can sits on the floor next to the desk. It looks like there is a lease. The lease is for space in the Bridgeview warehouse located in San Francisco. Navigation code 4675. It was rented by Carl Linsky 10 months ago. Well, that's a clue. And then we've got a note. The note is handwritten letter to Dolores Lightbody. It says, Dolores, I'm calling off our relationship off. It has nothing to do with Sandra Larson. I just know there are other whales in the sea, and I... Isn't that fishes in the sea? And there's a mention of Sandra Larson again. So let's go ahead and look at the desk. Brushed aluminum work desk. There's a drawer. We open the drawer. Looks like there's a digital tape. And then there's a grade sheet. Let's see. The grade sheet is for an advanced psychology course. The name of one student is circled. Blaze Wiener. The grade received is an E. Somebody who is upset about getting a bad grade. At least I'm assuming that an E is bad. If it's anything like an F, but not quite as bad. But Blaze Wiener. Now there's a fake name if ever I heard one. Or a porn actor name. We have a digital tape player, but now we have a digital tape, so... You slip the tape you found in the desk into the tape player. The voice on the tape cries out, they're in my head, they're in my head.
They're in my head, they're in my head!
Yeah, that was state-of-the-art sound effects work for 1989, folks. Okay, so let's see, anything else on the desk? Yeah, let's go ahead and get the grade sheet just to be safe. And I believe that's all we can get from here, thinking back to when I played this game back in the day. Thankfully, you can come back to most of the locations later on. Okay, so with that done, let's go ahead and go back to our list of contacts. We'll check out that warehouse that we found later. But next location, let's go ahead and try the ME. Okay, 4670. And that is just 2 miles away, not far at all. And behold the glory of the Golden Gate Bridge over there on the right, although it's more pink, but... And yeah, it's getting very shaky as we're very slowly trying to get to that exact coordinate and then lower ourselves down. exit. Nice little shot of the bridge there, though. Walking inside the medical examiner's office is a truly depressing experience. Long, cold, dark corridors and stainless steel utensils everywhere. They've gotten so busy down here they've had to install a conveyor belt. I wonder how much longer I've got before the meat wagon brings me here for my ride down the disassembly line. John Richards, the ME, meets me in the examination room. He's pretty strange, but it would take somebody who's pretty strange to do a job like this. Well, okay, let's go ask some Carl Linsky. Tell you about Linsky's death? Enough not about this one. He jumped off the bridge, massive shock when he hit, lungs filled with water, dead as a rock. I'll send you a copy of the autopsy report. And we can try threatening him or bribing him, but civil servant, not much point. And incoming fax. Okay, autopsy report. An autopsy was performed on the body of Carl Linsky at the office of the medical examiner on 21st day of September, 2033. Male, 5'10", blonde, blood type A, Caucasian, 160 pounds, eyes brown, age 62. External examination, body is cold to the touch, with fixed vigor in the extremities. Neck, head, brain. A small burr hole in the skull indicates recent surgery. Structure at base of brain intact. Neck shows massive damage to the spinal cord caused by severe impact. Pulmonary system is purple and shows a large amount of blood and frothy fluid in the chest and stomach. Death caused by massive shock and drowning. Time of death estimated between 10 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. September 20th. So yeah, nothing unusual there except for the note about there being a small hole in the skull indicating that he had brain surgery recently. That's not at all suspect, especially after that hole there in my head notice. I think we'll go ahead and do a call to the secretary.
Yes?
Okay, find out about, let's go ahead and go with Sandra Larson.
I'll check it out.
And while we're at it, look up Blaze Wiener.
Can't help you there.
Okay. Well, while we're at it,
I'll check it out.
okay.
Can't help you there.
Yeah, okay, how do I exit out of this? Okay, I guess we'll go ahead and do Dolores Lightbody next. Code for her is 5920, also close by. And by close by I mean 20 miles, but at least we're in the general San Francisco area. You know what this needs? An in-flight movie. Oh, hey, we got an incoming fax. Okay, Sandra Larson's San Francisco address is 4599. Oh, and another incoming fax. Dolores Lightbody lives in Berkeley, 4920. Well, we knew that already. But nice to see, you know, how the secretary can be useful. Although it is kind of hilarious that Tex is a secretary in this game in light of the later games where he is much more of the classic hard-on-his-luck PI that doesn't have the money to eat, much less to pay for an extravagance like a secretary. But it was established that Tex was actually very affluent starting out, and then he fell from grace. And at this point, he is still somewhat graced. Grayson? But yeah, you can see why, of all the Tex Murphy games, this one is not the most fondly remembered because the whole flying thing gets really tedious really quickly. Dolores Lightbody lives in a well-kept Victorian house in a neighborhood filled with the houses of attorneys and bankers. I walk up to the front door and ring the bell. She answers the door. Miss Lightbody is not what I expected. She has the face of a saint. A Saint Bernard. And, yeah, Lightbody is, ironic name. Okay, let's ask about... Carl had taken a life insurance policy out several months ago. He was worried about his health and wanted to leave his daughter something. Okay, Carl Linsky. Carl was my fiance, and he had been quite upset lately. He was worried about the project he was working on. I wouldn't talk about in specifics. Carl lived at 4660. Well, we've been there already. But he didn't work there. I think he had a lab somewhere in the city. His work must have been for the government because everything was top secret. Go ahead and ask about Sylvia. Sylvia and I never got along very well. When her father died, she was quite upset. She was even more upset when she talked to Peter Dull, the insurance agent. It seems that the insurance company would not pay for the $1 million because her father's death was declared a suicide. Okay, Peter Dull. He was Carl's insurance agent. He works at 4674. Okay. Jot that one down as well. Let's go. Officer Clements asked me some questions about Carl's death. I'm afraid I couldn't help him much. Okay, let's go with the big one. Sandra Larson. Ooh, great. She's a no-good tramp who tried to steal Carl away from me. Well, that one got her upset. And just for the comedy value of showing you why it's a bad idea to threaten people, I called her a fat tub of guts and threatened to use her face as a doormat if she doesn't give me the straight story. I'm really looking forward to a good skull bashing, but I'm too cocky. I throw a punch, but she ducks, and I stumble forward. She slams her right fist against the side of my chin. Her wallop could knock out a horse. I wake up a few minutes later feeling like I've been hit in the head with a crowbar. Of course, we could just go back. And yeah, allegedly there's some points where you can upset a person and you won't be able to get any more information out of them. The fact that I was able to just insult this lady and get punched out and come back no problem makes me question that, but I'm not going to take the chance. So that goes through that contact, and now we have the police detective in charge of the case. And 1680-18. Yeah, look at that glorious urban sprawl beneath us. I'll say this for the future. It may be a harsh radioactive dystopia, but the traffic has gotten a whole lot better ever since the flying cars got made. You know, Tex, I think you need to get the transmission fixed on this thing. It seems to be a little bit shaky. another nice view of the Golden Gate Bridge there. I enter the West Precinct station near the Bay Bridge. Walking down a narrow corridor, I see a number of posters in support of the Law and Order political party. I find the office of Police Detective Steve Clements and walk in. Clements greets me with his usual belligerency. "What do you want, Seamus?" he snarls. That guy does not look like a police detective. So, let's see. Tell me about... You're in a worthless profession, but you've given me some good tips from time to time, so I'll help you out if I can. Nothing like blunt honesty. Oh, yeah. Linsky. Why are you interested in him? Oh, I get it. His daughter wasn't happy with our investigation. She's knocking the hell out of the cops over a simple suicide. Well, she's wasting your time and her money. We've got a witness named Bash Daggett who saw him jump off the bridge. He even left a suicide note. Hands me the copy. The note reads, "Sylvia, I'm too tired and too sick of living. Please forgive me, Dad." How much proof does that girl need? Let's ask about Bash Daggett. I'm afraid the nicest thing I can say about Daggett is that he's the ultimate lowlife scumbag. You'll find him past the Mission District. Use, okay, got a code there. And Dolores. Sorry, can't help you there. Yeah. Dolores never understood what Carl Linsky saw in her. If she were a building, she'd be condemned. Yeah, I knew he mistyped something here. Let's ask him about Law and Order, since they have posters here. Law and Order. A lot of the police officers think the Law and Order party is just what the city needs, but that outfit scares me. Okay, well, I think that's everything useful we can get him. Actually, let's ask about himself. I'm fine, but he didn't come here to talk about me. No, we did not. Well, you know what? Let's go ahead and check out this informant. The witness, as it were. Let's see, that's 4657. Not too far away, just a little under 3.5 miles. I wonder if that red thing in the distance is supposed to be Coit Tower. Which, Coit Tower becomes a very important landmark in the Tex Murphy games. The later ones, anyway. And we're very slowly working our way down. I'm going to go ahead and shut the autopilot off now that... Well, I was going to, but now... I can't even lower the plane without the thing going off course and winding up away from the landing pad. There's like some occasional drift when you try and lower the plane. Car, whatever. Which wouldn't be that bad, except it keeps insisting on going up and flying when you really don't need to. And I'm going to go ahead and save my game here. Because we are about to enter into our very first firefight. And the firefighting on this is pretty basic. You use duck down, move to the right. You want to keep moving to the right. You have to get past the various barriers. Which, if you don't move to the right quickly enough, can be tricky. You can wind up in an area where it's impossible to advance without being shot. Okay. We made it, and I do believe that is in fact Coit Tower in the background there. They weren't kidding about this being a rough neighborhood. Blown out, wasted buildings, and occupied by the bottom rung of society. You'd have to have a jungle mentality to survive here. I find a suitable place to wait. I hope to see the guy who witnessed Linsky's suicide. Clement showed me a mugshot of Daggett, whom he described as the ultimate low-life scumbag. I finally see the guy. Looking at him quickly dispels the myth that a little inbreeding never hurt anyone. And yeah. Okay, tell me about Carl Linsky. Linsky. Suck it, fish face. Well, we can try bribing him, but I'm thinking we can actually beat this guy up. No time for diplomacy. I threaten to bash and crack heads if I don't get the right information. I slam my fist into his soft, flabby stomach, and he buckles over. I then catch his chin with a solid haymaker that sends him staggering back against the wall. Okay, that's enough. I'll talk. Yeah, I saw the old Grizzer jump, but the whole incident was outrageously bizarro. The old geek walks by like Dawn of the Dead. Then when he was 30 feet past me, he climbs over the barrier and nosedives into the bay. The amped old buzzard didn't even hesitate. Well, that seems a bit odd. Let's ask about... I think you're a pain, but ask your questions anyway. Clements, there's a determined cop. When he puts his foot down, someone's usually under it. Okay, so if he did kill himself, he definitely was messed up. It doesn't seem like anybody forced him to jump or anything, which tells us quite a bit. And just for the heck of it, well, there was the hope. Anyway, think we've got everything we can from this guy. So, yeah, the only other contact that we have at the moment, apart from the warehouse that we got the information about, is Peter Dull, which, now there's a joke name if ever there was one. And autopilot my way 3 miles away. Everybody lives within 3 miles of each other, and yeah, that's definitely supposed to be Coit Tower, I think. So yeah, the only other leads we have right now are Sandra Larson, the other woman, and Blaze Wiener, or Weiner. Somehow, though, I suspect that that's a dead end not worth pursuing because, well, somebody may threaten their life over, threaten a professor over a bad grade, but this is seeming much bigger than that. And, in that respect, this game did set itself up like a good detective game because there are a lot of dead ends, red herrings, leads that don't go anywhere. So you actually have to play this like a real detective, which unfortunately means there's a lot of covering old ground and busy work. Got that nice background again. Peter Dull is the vice president of the Trans-American Insurance Company. Most insurance people aren't really exciting, but he's so boring even looking at him can put you to sleep. Yeah, it must be dull if the vice president is willing to talk to us about policy, so let's ask about... Professor Linsky took out an insurance policy several months ago, naming his daughter as beneficiary. The policy amount was $1 million. Well, let's ask about... Mr. Linsky had taken an insurance policy on himself in July. The amount of the policy was $1 million. As you are certainly aware, there's a clause in life insurance policies that in the event of a suicide, the policy is null and void. So, yeah. Any chance of Sylvia having killed her own father, pretty minute, because presumably she'd have known that too. You can't kill somebody from the insurance if there's any chance of it being a suicide. Anyway. Not much worth pursuing there, except we did pretty much confirm that our client is on the up and up. Anyway, we'll go ahead and try Sandra Larson. I think we'll go ahead and call it there before we go continuing any more investigations. And she is, Bit of a drive here, 7 miles away. And the Golden Gate Bridge is not so golden now. If only we had a radio in this car, this wouldn't be quite as bad. And all right. Say, I find Senator Larson at a local pub. She's an extremely attractive woman in her late 20s. I can see why Linsky started to date her. Carl and I started dating about 2 months ago. I was heartbroken when I heard about his death. Well, yeah, sure, turn away from me. I like Sylvia. She's a nice kid. She can be a little wild, though. Yeah, this is why spelling is important. So, Loris. Dolores was Carl Linsky's girlfriend, but he'd grown tired of her. Carl started dating me, and he said that he was going to call their engagement off. Carl was worried about telling her because she had quite a temper. Sorry, can't help you there. Oh, heck, password. Yeah. So yeah, this seems like another dead end of sorts. Unless I try and bribe her for more information. Hey man, lighten up. I'll tell you what I know. Okay. Well, at least she didn't milk me for money that she didn't need. Let's go ahead and ask about law and order. I've seen some of the arrogant thugs around the office. They're all for the project at MTC, that's for sure. MTC. It's supposed to be a management training center for employees of Gideon, but I suspect there's more to it than that. They've hired a number of top scientists. I don't know what they've been doing, but I'm sure they're not management consultants. Let's try Gideon. Yeah, okay, that one we have to do Gideon Enterprises. I'm afraid I've never heard of that term before. Okay, well, technically we haven't heard that term before either, but it's on my list of stuff to ask about. So that really doesn't give us anything apart from... Yeah. So we're still in the dark apart from having eliminated a list of suspects. You know, looks like this wasn't an insurance scam, we know that much, but this wouldn't be much of an adventure game if it was. So we'll go ahead and stop this chapter here, and next time we will continue from the warehouse that Carl Linsky had rented out. We'll see you next time.